welcome to Malmö, and welcome to the work that has been carrying on here in Malmö for many years. When I first joined as chaplain here in Malmö, we had up in the room that was given to me as my office, a big board that gave a detailed account of where we came from. And then the starting date was given to me as 1900. And so then I said to class, we have to be celebrating 125 years this year. And Chang said to me, but you haven't had a chaplain so that long. You got your first chaplain in 1928. How can you be 125 years old? It's not possible. Then when I started doing a little research, I found actually the ministry in this harbour to seafarers goes back to 1886. Much longer than what we have had a chaplain in the harbour. So while we are celebrating 125 years, the reality is that in Malmö there has been ministry to seafarers much longer than that. So what I have here is a picture, this one here, that is the mission to seafarers in Hamburg. And they founded this mission to seafarers in 1886. And that was amongst the first in Europe, so that goes back many years now. But at the same time, and I think that it may very well have been associated with that founding of the mission in Hamburg, they started what was called a reading room here in Malmö. And right from the very beginning, you can see it says the second first Guds rike. This was a Christian establishment. This was reaching out to seafarers here in Malmö, mostly first from the free churches. And they started this outreach to seafarers. It was part also of the temperance movement. So those of you who don't know what the temperance movement is, it's the no alcohol movement. So the teetotalers. So it was very much about making alternative spaces available for seafarers. Spaces where people could come instead of going into the bars, instead of using the other entertainment avenues available for them in ports, and they could come to a reading room. So that was established here already in 1886 in Malmö. And by 1888, they had started the plans for starting a Humanshem. And that Humanshem was supported by the state, or supported by the city of Malmö. And the city of Malmö gave a grant for this work of 1,500 krona a year. And they built the first Humanshem just down the road from us now. And that was opened on the 3rd of November 1889. So going on 145 years ago. Extraordinary that we've had a ministry that goes back that far here in Malmö. By 1909, the work from that Humanshem had expanded so much that the city of Malmö had doubled the grant that they gave. So by 1909, there was 3,000 krona being given by the city of Malmö a year to that work. That small Humanshem, by that stage, was catering for 4,000 crew changes a year, 6,000 nights of people spending in that Humanshem by 1909. So quite an expanded work that had developed here in the port of Malmö in a relatively short period of time. This here is a photo that I took of a photo that we have in St. Nikolai Gord. It's a fascinating big photo that shows the harbour in 1891. And you can see the canal which goes around the city was still open to traffic, and we see the various sailing ships that used to come in those years. So this goes back quite some time. By 1928, the Church of Sweden appointed their first chaplain to the seafarers in Malmö, and they then started with a location specifically for that ministry, and that was on number 4 Stormgatan, which is just opposite the old post office, and you can see it right at the entrance, the old entrance into the harbour. That was operated for a number of years, but from there we moved to what became known as Sjömansgård, and today we know as St. Nikolai Gård. The photo that I took was from the Maritime University that is opposite us. And if you have a look at the building, this part here, that's the oldest part of the building. That was built in 1851, and that was for guards for the harbour. So that was built in 1851, and then the other side, that was the old fish market, built in 1909. So the fish market, built in 1909, was opposite this guard building, and in 1965, the city of Malmö gave this to the newly formed Sjömanskyrkan Stiftelse. That came in 1965. And from there, the fundraising that Gunilla was speaking about was initiated, and on the 6th of December, in 1969, they inaugurated the new chapel that had been built to bind these two buildings together. And that is really the core of where those buildings come from. Of course, in 1969, the way that those buildings were used and the ministry that was exercised was very different to what we have today. In those, just let me say to you that built into those buildings are two very special rooms, and they were designed to be built into it from the very beginning. The first of them is this one, which was the smoking salon. It was the smoking room for one of the vessels that had been decommissioned, and that vessel was the SS Kung Gustav Fem. And that was a ferry, a rail ferry that had been decommissioned, and the smoking salon had been taken out and built into that building. It's still there now. I took this photo yesterday. So if you want to see it, we'll walk you down and we'll show you. What was also built in there was a captain's cabin from another vessel, and that was the Drottning Victoria, another ferry that had been decommissioned. And so both of these rooms have been built into that facility. So this is really what the work looked like in 1969. Upstairs in the old guard room, bedrooms were created, and those bedrooms were available for seafarers who needed them. But mostly those rooms were rented out to students from the World Maritime University. And so various companies had sponsored those rooms. And so on each door was the name of the company who had sponsored the rooms. And so while you were studying at the World Maritime University, you would be staying in the Millennium room, or you would be staying in the whatever, whichever company had sponsored the rooms. And those rooms were being used for students. Downstairs was a very large restaurant. And the restaurant was open every day, lunchtime. And it catered for all the businesses in the area. They used to come there and buy their lunch, eat there, and of course it was also used for meetings of seafarers and so on. But it was one of the major fundraising opportunities for this Seamen's Church in Malmö. And so that was a ministry that was operated from there. In addition to that, as Gunilla had described, many services were being held in the chapel. And the chapel became a hub for retired seafarers as well. And from there were then funerals, there were weddings that were being conducted. We have at St. Nikolai Gord a beautiful bridal crown, where the entire side of the bridal crown is made up of anchors with crosses on the top. So a bridal crown that had been created for the daughters of seafarers, and baptisms took place there. Those services continue, but in quite a different way today. So today we are no longer sponsored by Malmö City. My position has been secured because of this very, very forward-thinking arrangement that had been entered into between Malmö Parish and the Schumann-Schirken Stiftelse. And because of that, we now have the ability to have a full-time priest in the harbour in Malmö. And my work I conduct in conjunction with Mike and Frederick. Frederick, who was going to be with us, but there's someone in the harbour, so he's jumped out. He's gone to continue the work, and Mike, who is here. This photo was taken just a couple of days ago when we had a cruise ship in the harbour. And when we have a cruise ship on harbour, it's literally all hands on deck, because you have anywhere between 240 and 1,000 crew, and they have no time, literally no time. And so we shuttle them backwards and forwards from there to St. Petri, and they then have sometimes only 45 minutes in town, and then we shuttle them back. So that's when we have those vessels coming in. But if it wasn't for this close collaboration between ourselves and Schumann-Schirken, there's no way that we would be able to do half of what we do in this port. So our ministry looks after the physical, social, and spiritual dimension of seafarers' lives. If we can, we don't just take seafarers to town, we take them to the forest. They get so excited when they get a chance to walk in the forest. Initially they just say, no, we don't have time for that. And I say, it's fine, we've got a 1 kilometer walk we can take you on. And by the end of it, there's a demand for the others in the crew to go out the next day, because it's such a forest bathing experience, and they love it. We then, with Schumann-Schirken, make SIM cards available when people want them, and we give them top-up for internet when they need it. This became incredibly important just after the war started between Russia and Ukraine. And we then took the firm decision in this port that we would make SIM cards and internet available to all seafarers who were affected by that conflict. In total, we distributed more than 80,000 krona worth of SIM cards and internet, just to allow people who were caught up in that conflict to be able to have contact with their families at home. Masses are no longer celebrated for the seafarers in the chapel. And the reason is very simple. If we celebrate Mass for them in the chapel, a maximum of 50% of the crew can come out. If we celebrate Mass for them on the vessel, all the crew can participate. And without actually having a chaplain, a priest assigned to this, doing the Masses or taking those services on the ship would not be possible. I've had a journalist who's been chasing me now for about 3 months, and he keeps saying to me, I want to be with you when you take a service on board. And I say to him, but I can't give you notice because I take the services when they request it. And they'll only be in the port that day or the next. And so, we have had a situation where I walk onto a ship, we ask them, would you like a mass? And they say, can you take it in half an hour? And I said, just give me time to go and fetch my things, and then we take the service. And we do that because many of the seafarers who come into our port, I would say the vast majority of them are actually from the Philippines. And they want Mass. They want to receive communion. And so when we offer it to them, they take that up very frequently. We even have seafarers who ask for Bibles. Yes, it's true. We have seafarers who ask for Bibles, and we do have Bibles that we can distribute to them. We give out mostly Bibles in English. We've been in touch with the Bible Society to try and get hold of Bibles in other languages. And in time, we want to buy in Tagalog, Ukrainian, and Polish Bibles as well, because those are the Christian groups that we mostly see coming into our port.
Men det är katoliker vi pratar om nu alltså?
Inte bara, nej.
Nej, inte bara, men mycket av dem.
Mycket av dem, men inte bara.
Nej, men de accepterar.
Ja.
Kiki tipsade mig om att före detta gideoniterna, Good News heter de nu, de vill ju dela ut biblar gratis, så jag kontaktade dem och då de ger oss gratis biblar på tagalog, ryska, ukrainska, men vi delar ut dem. Kanske ni kan göra något motsvarande här i Malmö?
Jag så blir mycket tacksam för information från dig. Tack Cecilia. Ash Wednesday is very important within the church year, and we go on board the vessels to do ashing for them. We don't only do it on Ash Wednesday. I do it on Ash Wednesday and the 10 days following. I know many in the church would frown on me. I do it because they can't be in port always on Ash Wednesday, but they want to have a start to Lent. And so we do that. We do the same with palm crosses for Palm Sunday, and I give out palm crosses all the way from Palm Sunday through to Good Friday. Then I feel it's enough. Now we've got to prepare for Easter. And then we want to make sure that we can give them something of a taste of the city. Of course, my great love is St. Petri. They're not forced to come to St. Petri, but they're very grateful always when they can come to St. Petri. And from here, they're right in the Gamla in the old city of Malmö. And from here, it's easy to walk into Sturetorget, Lilletorget, Gustav Adolfs torg. So all of that is around here. And also very easy to walk from here up to Triangeln. So there's a lot of shopping that they can do. What we also do, and have been making available to them, is an entrance fee for the museums that we have in Malmö. And of course they're closed on Monday, but any other day we're very happy to take people through to the museums. We pay their entrance fee there, and various cultural engagements like that we can help them with, we do. And it's just about not only leaving the vessel, but having an encounter that is different, takes your mind away from your work, gives you a break from what you are doing. We know that when they are on board, they work 7 days a week. There isn't an off day. They don't work 8 hours on, 16 hours off. Some vessels you work 6 on, 6 off. And we know that that means that their free time on board is most frequently time they want to sleep. But if we can get them off just for 2 hours, we see the difference already. And of course, we transport people, as I've mentioned. But it's not just about transport, it's about encounter. It's about being able to engage with them. Many times when I've been asked to transport somebody, I have them in the car, they need guitar strings. So we drive off to a music store to go and buy the guitar strings. 5 minutes after we've left the vessel, my wife wants to leave me. Oh? Mike says, take me to the club. I drop him off, and then we have time and we talk in the car. And we talk about the realities of their lives. The fact that he can't break his contract to go home, otherwise he won't be appointed again. Who is it that we can be in touch with? And this is one of the reasons why, for me, it's so important for us to be part of ICMA, so that we can be part of this society of chaplains all around the world, so that we can contact Mission to Seafarers in the Philippines and say, please, can you reach out to a wife in such and such a community? And with that networking, we are able to exercise a ministry that is crucial for the seafarers who come into our port. Christmas and Easter is always marked by gifts that we take to the seafarers, and this particular photo is taken in Easter because from Malmö, while this is our main port and while this is the place that most of our work happens, we also have responsibility for Landskrona, Trelleborg and Easter. And at least Easter and Christmas, we try to get into those ports so that we help people in those ports know that we are available to them. Most recently, we have been able to start a small fellowship of the parishes that work in those ports. And we are starting to work on not only how do we deal with emergency situations in those ports, but also how do we further extend the work that we do through the social outreach to seafarers in those ports. Yes, we try to meet the physical needs that our seafarers have. Sometimes when they come in here, it's very, very cold and they don't have the clothing that they need. And it's very convenient to be able to say, but the company should be providing. But they don't always. And so we are very fortunate here in Malmö that we have a diaconical center at St. Maria Church, and from there we can sometimes get second-hand goods that have been given, and if we can't, then we have the resources that we can use to buy jackets, to buy gloves, to buy the things that they need to be able to keep warm. It's wonderful to think of being able to make sporting available to seafarers. Today it's very rare. It's rare because they have very little time in port. But where ships are in port for long enough, we are able to make those facilities available. And above all, our task is to make sure that any seafarer we encounter knows and understands that they are valuable and are valued. This particular photo was taken after we had taken this group of seafarers to get COVID vaccinations. They hadn't been able to leave the vessels, but because we were able to get in touch with one of the local clinics, the Vård Central in Rosengård, through them we were able to make sure that more than 160 seafarers got vaccinated in this port. I can tell you that I probably need to go to confession about it, because we taught them how to tell the answers correctly, not incorrectly. So the nurses would say, so when are you coming for your follow-up vaccination? Of course, they don't know when they're going to be in this port again. But if we can get them one vaccination, they might be able to get the other one somewhere else. And that's what we did. Connie.
Var är agenten någonstans då?
Agenten?
Ja.
För den vaccination eller vad frågar du?
Ja, överhuvudtaget för vaccination till exempel. Var är agenten någonstans då?
Angenta inte jobbet på det. Det var det som vi själv har gjort och vi tar det till vår central i Rosengård.
Just, men jag tänkte agenten har ju jobbet.
Agenten har betalt för det.
Nej, stat har betalt. Sverige har betalt.
Ja, vaccinationen.
Ja.
Men alltså jobbet att ta dem till vaccination.
Men vad-
That's what we do.
I think they mean that the agent is responsible and not paid to bring them for vaccination. And main part do that, but not all. And therefore, due to some of them, to the free space in Rosengård for that clinic to give them.
Jag menar, det är fantastiskt det ni gör. Men jag tänker ibland, vad håller agenten hus någonstans?
Ja, det undrar man.
Can I just bring in on that one? So I 100% agree with one of the biggest challenge we've had amongst all our members was the lack of vaccination. But that's where we talked previously about what can do. We were really carrying the voice there and saying that obligation the manning agency had to provide it and putting effort behind it. You're absolutely right. They are responsible for it, but it doesn't happen. And there it's free places. But we were able, by JP, set up quite a few different big centres to provide the vaccination for them, and that's where the ICMA voice was really useful from that point as well. But yeah, most manning agencies did not do what they were supposed to do.
And also the healthcare system didn't really do that either.
No.
So the thing was that, I think it was the 2nd of September, when the IMO told the seafarers is an important group of people that have to have a vaccination. So we leaned on that, and when we came to the vårdcentral in Rosengård, they said, you know, they have to do this because they are a group, these are important, and it's by the IMO, and therefore they have to take them.
But I would say Sweden is one of the few that did that.
Yeah.
I would say most around the world, seafarers didn't get their vaccinations, and that was a major concern. But yeah.
I want to express my thanks for all of you who are here. I want to express my thanks for the Stiftelse who works very hard to enable me to do the ministry that I do. I want to thank the parish of Malmö for taking seriously the obligation to have a chaplain in this harbour. And I want to thank Eva Sofia, who is in charge of the other 10% of my time when I work across the road. All of those people are a huge support to me to enable the work that I do. Going back as I have now to 1886, there are thousands of names that are lost, of people who have worked for seafarers here in Malmö and in other ports around this part of Skåne. People who have given freely of their time, people who have engaged, volunteer work, other work, all to try and support seafarers. But the group that I feel is most frequently forgotten is the seafarers themselves. The money that we have in the Stiftelse here is all money that seafarers have given in bequests, money that they have given in their wills, money that they have donated for this work. And without seafarers, we would not be able to do ministry to seafarers. We found, I hope I haven't lost anybody on this list, I think this is the list of the chaplains who have worked for the seafarers in Malmö since 1928. And for all of their work, I'm also truly grateful. Thank you so much for your attention, and if there's any questions that you have, please feel free.